Ooh, that was a really good shopping trip, wasn't it? What did we get? We got fresh bread, yeah? We got tea, apples and cheese. For you, the cheese is. You like cheese, don't you? Do you know, it's a funny thing. As we were shopping and I had the basket and I had this red top on, it made me think of a story. Well, once upon a time, there was a very picturesque, beautiful cottage on the edge of the woods. There's often woods in stories, yes there are, because woods can be very magical and mystical places sometimes, can't they? Anyway, in this cottage there lived a little girl with her mother, and the little girl's favourite colour was red. And she always used to like to wear a red cape with a hood, and all the people around the village had a name for her. Do you know what they called her? No, not Little Yellow Riding Hood, Little Red Riding Hood. Yeah. Anyway, one day, Little Red Riding Hood's mum said, "Little Red Riding Hood, would you be able to take some shopping to your grandma, please?" Because Little Red Riding Hood's grandma lived in a cottage which was much deeper in the woods, and because she was elderly and she was quite frail, she couldn't get to the shops as often as she used to. So Little Red Riding Hood used to take shopping to her sometimes in a basket. That was very nice of her, wasn't it? Well, of course, the little girl said, "Yes, of course I will, Mum. What do you want me to take?" So Little Red Riding Hood's mother got the basket and she put some apples in it, some fresh bread, of course. I can still smell it. Some cheese and some tea. And she said, "There you go. Don't be late back. Don't talk to strangers. And don't wander off the path. Keep your mind on what you're doing." "I will," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Bye, see you later, Mum." And off she went, skipping along the path towards her grandma's house. Well, as she was skipping along with the basket, a big wolf saw her, and he thought, "I wonder what's in that basket. Might be a nice snack for me." So he stopped Little Red Riding Hood and he put on his most pleasant and delightful voice, and he said, "Excuse me, little girl, I'm quite inquisitive, please excuse that, but I'd love to know what you've got in that basket. Would it be possible for me to have a look, please?" "Oh, yes, of course," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Of course you can. Look, it's just tea and bread and cheese and apples." "Oh," said the wolf, rather disappointed, because he was looking forward to a snack and he didn't fancy any of those things. But then he looked at Little Red Riding Hood and he thought, a little girl would be quite a nice snack. But then Little Red Riding Hood said, "I'm just taking this food to my grandma's house. It's only just down the lane and round the corner in the woods. I'll be there in a minute." And the wolf thought, a grandma as well. Little girl, grandma, dinner and dessert. So quickly he ran as fast as he could to find the grandma's house. When he got there, he knocked on the door. Well, Grandma was in bed, but she was expecting Little Red Riding Hood. "Come in, darling," she said, in a frail little voice. The wolf opened the door. Grandma saw that it was a wolf straight away. "Oh, my goodness," she said, "a wolf, a wolf! Help, help!" But she was not quick enough, and the wolf jumped on the bed and grabbed her, and she was so small and frail, he swallowed her in one swift movement. That was the end of Grandma. It was. Well, the wolf thought then, how am I going to get this little girl? He looked in the wardrobe and he put on one of Grandma's very flowery, frilly nighties. It was a bit tight. It wasn't made for a wolf, was it? He squeezed into it and he put on a frilly nightcap and pushed his ears underneath. And then he jumped into bed and pulled the quilt up. A few seconds later, there was a knock on the door. It was Little Red Riding Hood. "It's Little Red Riding Hood," she said. "Grandma, are you in?"
Yes, yes," said the wolf, trying to disguise his voice. "Come in, dear."
Little Red Riding Hood opened the door. It was rather dim inside the cottage, but Little Red Riding Hood was suspicious about her grandma's voice. "Grandma," she said, "why is your voice so strange?"
"Oh," said the wolf, "oh, I think I must need a cup of tea."
"Oh, that's good," said Little Red Riding Hood. "I've brought tea in the basket. I'll go and make a pot of tea right away, and you can have a cup."
"Thank you, darling," said the wolf.
Little Red Riding Hood went in the kitchen and made a pot of tea. The wolf said,
"Come and sit with me on the bed, darling."
Little Red Riding Hood came through. Her eyes were adjusting to the dimness now, and she looked at the wolf and thought Grandma looked very strange. "Grandma," said Little Red Riding Hood, "what big eyes you have."
"Oh," said the wolf, "well, all the better to see you in, my dear."
And then Little Red Riding Hood said, "But Grandma, what big ears you have. One's just popped out from under your nightcap."
"Oh," said the wolf, yes, well, all the better to hear you with, my dear."
And then the wolf tried to smile to look nice, and he showed his teeth. And Little Red Riding Hood said, "But Grandma, what awfully horrible, sharp, nasty looking teeth you have." And the wolf said,
"Yes, dear, all the better to eat you with."
And he leapt forward and he grabbed at Little Red Riding Hood. But she was too quick. She was quite an athletic little girl. She could run and jump and swim. Suddenly she dived under the table and jumped over the chairs, round the corner, round the door, and off through the woods. The wolf ran after her as fast as he could, but he couldn't run very fast really, because he wasn't used to wearing a frilly nightie, and his claws get stuck in the material, and he was tripping up all the time. Well, there was an enormous woodcutter working in the woods. He was a huge man, and when he saw the little girl running and shouting for help, he thought, "Why is that little girl running away from her grandmother?" And then he looked again, and he saw that there was a big bushy grey tail hanging down from underneath the wolf's nightie. "It's a wolf," said the woodcutter. And as the wolf ran past, in one swift movement, the woodcutter dived down and grabbed the wolf's tail. He lifted him off his legs, and he started to swing him round his head. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. He span him so fast that the wolf's mouth came open. "Oh!" And Grandma popped out. "Wow!" Poosh! And landed in the bushes over there. She was all right, but she was a bit smelly and a bit damp. Anyway, the woodcutter was so shocked that he let go of the wolf, and the wolf went, "Oh!" Boosh! Into some bushes in that direction. Yes, that was the wolf, yeah. Oh, that was a wolf's howl, yeah. Well, the woodcutter and Little Red Riding Hood rushed back to Grandma and picked her up and carried her in and put her on her bed. "Are you all right?" said the woodcutter. "Yes, I think I'm all right," said Grandma. "But where is my darling Little Red Riding Hood?" Little Red Riding Hood came through and said, "Grandma, Grandma, I'm so pleased that you're okay. You'll need a bath, but first, would you like a cup of tea, because I've just made a pot?" "Oh, please, please, I'd love that," said Grandma, "because, you know, my throat is very, very dry." Let's go and put this shopping away.